I was part of my presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Corey Hunt, and we are one step closer to solving the housing crisis. Now, the problem, to simplify it, is housing is too damn expensive. The regular resident of Cuyahoga County making the median income cannot afford enough so that a mortgage lender will lend them money to buy a house. The average house in Cuyahoga County is between $350,000 to $445,000 to build. Now, my problem statement is that I'm studying public perception of multifamily housing to evaluate the viability of multifamily housing as a solution to housing shortage. Now, there's just a couple important definitions that we need to go over before we continue. The first one is when I use the word condo or condominium, I am specifically referring to apartment-style condominiums that have units that are owner-occupied. And when I refer to townhouses, I am specifically referring to planned unit development attached townhouses. And if I use the word PUD, I know what you know. And then lastly, FHA. So FHA stands for Federal Housing Authority, and FHA is important because they provide what are known as FHA loans. And FHA loans are the most socially equitable form of loan that a person can get because they provide people with lower credit scores a chance to get a 3.5% down on their house, whereas if they were to try to get a conventional loan, they would have to have a 20% down payment on their house. Alright, so the public administration theories that are going into my paper are Crouchman's social construction of deservedness. Essentially, this is the idea that there is us, and we deserve these things, and then there are them, which are different groups of people who do not deserve these things. That's the most simple way to put it, folks. Now, my second framework is Nugent's et al.'s debate framing and local actors. And essentially what this is that when people go to city council meetings or planning commission meetings, and they want to kill a proposed piece of housing, they have certain arguments that they use, and so I use this theory in order to bulletproof the sort of ideas that we have. Because their sort of idea is that they're not like us. They don't want to say that. So they come up with all kinds of different excuses to try and kill new housing. So data gathering. So for my qualitative data, I gathered it in two ways. First was the snowball sampling method of interviews. Essentially, I started with two different people I wanted to interview. Shout out Mary Sawerka because she connected me to a lot of people. And then one of those people then grew and snowballed into more and more people until eventually, by the end of it, I'd interviewed 8 people for this project. My second are case studies. So I had 2 case studies from Elyria, 2 from North Olmsted, 1 from Old Brooklyn, and 1 from Lake Township about new housing developments that were being built, and there is opposition to housing development. And I'm very pleased to say that in 5 of those 6 cases, those housing developments were either successfully completed or are very far along into the process. Only the one in Lake Township has such vehement opposition that it looks like it probably will not come to fruition. And there's also a condominium development in Lake Township as well. So data comparison for North Olmsted. This is some quantitative data for you folks. So that's the average single-family lot size for a single-family home in North Olmsted. That is Kingston Townhomes. That's their data. That is also North Olmsted, and then Olmsted Park condominiums. And basically, what the takeaway is from this data set is that condominiums are the most efficient and therefore cost-effective use of land. So this compares Forest Commons and Kingston Townhouses. These are both in the city of North Olmsted. It's very interesting. So Forest Commons, they were legally required to notify 30 residents that they were building this property, and of those 30 residents, 5 or 17% voiced their opposition to the planning commission meeting. This one's actually quite unique because it's 24 single-family houses, 12 patio homes that elderly folks can move into because they're ranch style, and 14 townhouses. And through my research, I found that the average price for a condominium in Cuyahoga County is $193,000 versus $225,000 for a townhouse. However, FHA lenders do not like to loan out for condominiums. So even though the townhouses are marginally more expensive, it's actually the more socially equitable option to build townhouses because those are far more likely to get FHA approval for the loan so that people can purchase them. So I know what you're probably asking. You're like, what can I do? What can I do to help this situation? Well, I want you folks, I want you to be annoying. I want you to go to your city council meetings, and I want you to speak publicly, and I want you to tell your city council people that you want new multifamily housing built in your community. Now, my recommendations for what we should do is we can't just do townhouses, we can't just do condominiums. The answer actually lies in both of these because you see right now in the United States, 17% of Americans are 65 or older. Senior citizens are the key to the solution here. Now, in 2050, 23% of the population will be age 65 or older. Now, condominiums face bigger issues being built and also are more easier to get with a conventional loan versus an FHA loan, which is why if we build condominiums with age-restricted deeds of 55 and older, we can bypass what I've heard in my interviews is that helps us bypass the opposition against those. And since, by 2050, around 25% of our population, around a quarter, will be 55 or older, then that allows us to do that. And meanwhile, we can also do townhouses, which will be for younger folks and for the more socially vulnerable folks that still do have enough money, though, to purchase a house. All right, so for Cleveland State's MPA program, I ranked them all from best to worst. So I would say that overall, I did really enjoy MPA's program. I feel that I did learn a lot. I feel that one weakness that could be worked on is focus towards more skills-based learning rather than theory, because I feel that once I do get a job, I want to be able to fit into that position, have the skills to be able to do that job, rather than, theoretically I know what this is, but I would like to have more skills. If you noticed, I put an asterisk next to planning in the city. The reason for that asterisk is because in our program, I think that we have the right idea and that we want to have cross-sectional between nonprofit and planning students and MPA. But I feel like the way that we've been doing it has been very clumsy. We used to do it with a class called Urban Colloquium, but what we've been starting to do now is with field trips. And when I took that class, I kid you not, 30% of all classes were just those field trips that had in no way any relation to the class itself. Which is why I think that it would be really cool if we could require students, okay, you have to take at least one class for every discipline. Because planning in the state taught me a lot about planning. I really appreciate that class. I also like to shout out Dr. Wukic. He taught me a lot. He actually taught my top 2 favorite classes in this program, so I just really like to give credit where credit is due. All right, thank you. I'm glad I got that in under 10 minutes. Any questions?
I am a non-empathetic or sympathetic person towards your argument, your advocacy. Give me your argument as to why I should care about going towards building more condos, more affordable housing. So again, right, I want you to reach out to someone who doesn't really care about people who are having a problem. They're living lake, they're comfortable. Why should I have your argument out there?
Now, I'm assuming that you probably have family members, maybe you have children or people in your family that care about. Well, You do not. I think that it's, right that other people are able to experience the same privileges that you've had in being able to own a home. And, maybe you don't have any children or family members that you'd like to see own a home. But when people are spending less of their money on their housing, they are able to spend more money on other forms of the economy, which then boosts the economy, which could be dollars that might come back to help you.
Thank you very much. It's all about me.
So I have a question for you. Can you talk more about the interviews that you did?
Oh, yes. All right. So,
What was the question? Could you, didn't hear the question?
Oh, I asked if you could talk more about the interviews that you did.
Oh.
yeah. So I did 8 interviews. All right. I'm gonna start with the most disconnected one, and then go to all the ones that Mary helped me get. So I interviewed Jeffrey Briscucci. He used to be a professor here at this college. He is the head of the CDC, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, and so he taught me about the housing market in Cleveland and the realities of okay, here's how much it is to build a house, this is square footage and stuff. And he also had a very interesting case study that I mentioned. That's the old Brooklyn one, where they purchased a abandoned church and a commercial property next to it, and they wanted to build a mixed income housing development where it'd be half the units would be for affordable housing and half the units would be market rate housing. The neighborhood came out, they were you're not gonna do that. So basically what ended up happening is they had to abandon that and they had to re-go to it, and then they had to do just market rate housing. So they are building it now, but it's all market rate housing, it's not affordable. Not all of it's affordable. And then the ones that Mary helped me get, my first interview was with a man named Tim Pinchak. And that was an interesting interview, but not a lot came of it that I used in my thing. But then it was Max Upton, is who we connected me to, which is actually one of the panelists for next week. And I'm very happy he's not the panelist right now because I get really nervous. So he taught me a lot about the public opposition thing. And going back to the Forest Commons thing, he's the one that sort of told me about okay, legally we had to notify 30 people, and of those 30 people, 5 of them came out against it. And it's interesting because they didn't realize that housing was being built. Those houses that are being built in that Forest Commons were $400,000 to $500,000 homes, and there were still people voicing their opposition. But the thing is that they eventually got them to calm down, and then they went through the project. I interviewed 4 members of the Elyria City Council. Actually, one of which was Mary. But I'd say the most interesting one was with a man named Chad Schneider, because he was not only a member of Elyria City Council, but he also is a real estate agent, and he's actually the one that sort of taught me about the benefits of PUDs, or what I've been calling townhouses. Because I asked him point blank, hey, what do you think is the solution here? And he told me PUDs, and that's why I'm really
that methodological work and how that was analyzed to drive out the findings that we should believe in condos. That was a little bit, that wasn't as convincing for me.
Yeah.
So, and I get a hunch that it's there. It's
Yeah.
totally
10
there.
minutes is kind of a hard time to work with it.
But that's a really important part of your work, is that you gathered all of this information. It's rich case studies, it's rich interview stuff. Having that slide of what came out of that, and out of that, that's what drives my recommendations of where I end up. That piece needs to be strengthened in the future if you recreate this. In your paper, it's got to be there, and I think it's going to be there.
Yes, you will be fortunate enough to read it. You'll be the first person that gets to read it.